Welcome to Roof Rafter Layout Part 2. In the first video, we talked about the various parts of terminology we needed to know in order to do calculations for roof layout. Okay, so let's do these calculations. So we have a building, and let's say the total span of the building is 24 feet. And the total rise of the roof is 6 feet. So our first rule is to take the span and divide it by 2 in order to get the total run of the roof. Now we're going to take the total rise and divide it by the total run. In this case, it's 6 feet over 12 feet. Now we have to take those numbers and apply it as a ratio to the framing square. So we have 6 feet over 12 feet equals x over 12 inches. Looking at the numbers, the units are only different, so the simplest solution would be 6 inches over 12 inches is the same as 6 feet over 12 feet. So now we have the numbers that we need for our framing square. So now we're going to look for those numbers on the outside edge of the framing square. The first one I want to look for is the 12, and we'll find that on the fat side of the framing square. Now we want to look for the 6 on the thin part of the framing square. Once we have those two numbers, we'll now show the slope of the line of the roof. So I'm now using my framing square with those numbers. The little clamps that you see on the side or on the framing square are what are called rafter gauges or stair gauges. They're basically there to hold those numbers in the correct spot when we're doing our layout and marking. The rafter gauges also show us the angles for which we're going to cut the roof rafter. The plumb cut or the vertical cut is on the thin side of the framing square, and the horizontal cut or seat cut is on the wide part of the framing square. Here's on the demonstration model where those cuts are located. The plumb cut is at the ridge and the seat cut is at the top of the wall plate. In the following video, you're going to see how I use the framing square and the gauges in which to mark out the location of the different cuts. I start by putting the framing square gauges against the edge of the rafter, and then I proceed and mark out the first plumb cut. We then take the calculated measurement of the length of the rafter and measure that from the top of the plumb cut to where the wall frame is going to meet it. Then we'll slide the framing square back a little bit so that we're about a third of the way down the thickness, or sorry, the width of the rafter, and then mark the seat cut. What we haven't talked about is how to calculate the length of the rafter. That's calculated, believe it or not, off the framing square. The framing square has information on it which will help us do our calculations. So we want the length of the common rafter per foot. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow along that line until we reach 6. 6 is the number for our slope. We have a 612 slope. So beneath there, we're going to look for the number of the length of the common rafter per foot. So we're going to take that number, 13.42, and then multiply it times the total run of the building. In this case, it's 12 feet. So it would be 13.42 times 12. That will give us the length of the common rafter. Not all framing squares have a table on them. So here is one that I found off the internet that you could use also to do your calculations. What we're going to do is we're going to take the 13.42, multiply it times 12, and that will give us the length of the common rafter in inches from the ridge to the outside of the wall edge. This concludes the video for today. We're going to talk about overhangs in another video.